Welcome to this bonus edition of Life's a Pitch TV. The team were proud to be part of a star-studded capacity crowd recently in the Sir Bobby Robson Suite at Portman Road for a magical night celebrating the careers of two of the club's greatest icons, George Burley and John Wark. And part two of this bonus episode of Life's a Pitch TV shows John in conversation with friend of the show, Neil Prentice, the author of his new book, He's Here, He's There.
It's George Burley! Make some noise for the one and only Johnny Wark! So in January of this year, with all to play for completed and selling nicely, I thought, what's next? When I came across a quote from August 1938, as you do. Well, that quote was written by the man who took Ipswich into the Football League, Captain Ivan Cobbold. And it reads as follows. Another page in the history of Ipswich Town is about to open. What the story will be, none can tell. Of one thing I am certain, my co-directors and I will do all within our power for the honour and success of Ipswich Town Football Club. Now, unfortunately, Captain Ivan lost his life during World War II, so he never got to experience the fairy tale Ipswich Town story that did indeed unfold. But it got me thinking, which player has brought more honour and success to Ipswich Town than any other? And I instinctively thought of one particular player. I then discovered that March 2025 would be the 50th anniversary since he made his Ipswich Town debut. And of course that player was John Wark. Now, going into the project, I thought I knew pretty much all there was to know about Warky's career, but I was wrong. In fact, and I'm sure John will admit to this himself, he's also learnt a fair bit about his own achievements too. While we now live in a digital world, I believe these books still play a crucial part in our framing of history. And it would be nice to think that in a further 50 years or more from now, Ipswich Town followers of the day will pick up and browse this publication and marvel at the feats of an iconic individual, a player who made the honour and success of Ipswich Town Football Club his business. His statistics and achievements remain unrivalled. When you think of John Wark, you think of his goals, the penalties, the glory, his amazing longevity, not forgetting his distinctive moustache. And when you think of Ipswich Town, you think of the man who's now going to join me on stage, Johnny Wark! So John, do you enjoy hearing George's stories from the first half?
Brilliant. Yeah, George's top man. George has been here, you know, longer than me, and we've been together for a long time, and we've played together, and he ended up not being a footballer, being a manager, and he was fantastic at both of them.
But you were a bit worried, weren't you, when he became your manager?
Yeah, just a little bit, yeah, because I think he realised I was on my last legs, you know what I mean? And he kept playing me now and again, but as I say, he knows what he's on about, and it was the right decision.
So you told me that you used to have a little word with some of the physios, didn't you, to help?
Yeah, I think one of them's in here. Willow's in here, yeah. And we used to have a word, you know, about, because George wanted to know, or certain managers wanted to know injuries. And I just told him, just tell him, I've got an injury, but I'm all right for Friday. You know what I mean? And I'll train on Friday and I'll be available for Saturday's game.
You didn't miss many Saturdays, did you?
No, I never. Yeah, that was the main thing.
Normally man of the match as well.
Yeah, the usual, yeah.
Well, you were born in Glasgow on the 4th of August 1957, and by your own admission, John, you grew up in some pretty tough conditions there.
Yeah, it's just typical Glasgow. No, I was in a tenement building. You know, there was 6 families, and we're all there in one toilet. So it was quite difficult to the thing. But
Have things improved?
it was just the things that happened in Glasgow, but it was the best. As I say, for me, Glasgow's the best place ever. You know, and I was just proud to be. You know,
Your roots have stayed with you, haven't they?
Yeah. And I was lucky enough to play for my country.
So you were spotted by a gentleman called George Findlay, who was the club's Scottish scout under Bobby Robson, and he also found George, and he found Alan Brazil as well. So
Yeah,
it was quite good at his job, wasn't
Well, it must be good because 3 of us went and played for our countries. You know what I
Some
mean?
contribution, isn't it?
Yeah, so it was, as I say, I played in a really good boys' club team, the best team in Glasgow, and then he suddenly says, you're going for a trial at Ipswich. And I went, where the f***'s Ipswich? You know what I mean? You know, and as I say, and the next minute I get a bus to Ipswich and it takes me 10 hours, and I says, do I need a passport? But that didn't. But it was the best thing that ever happened to me.
And one of my favourite little stories from the book is when you told me about where you used to go after training. You remember?
We went to, what's the pub?
Sporting Farm?
Yeah, we used to go there for lunch, right? And you have a pork pie and beans and all that. But some people had something different, you know, and the odd occasion we did. And so it was probably down to the manager letting us, you know, have lunch in a pub. It's the worst thing ever, you know what I mean? But as I say, it was just the beginning of everything.
So let's talk about a match which was, you know, so memorable for you. Your debut against Leeds United, and it was 50 years ago in March since you played in that game. And I mean, it was probably the toughest debut that you could ever imagine.
Yeah.
And do you think that surviving that and getting through that just gave you so much confidence for the future?
Well, it did. But the thing, it wasn't just like me, it was the players I played with, you know what I mean? And as you say, Kevin was injured, there was a lot of centre-backs injured. I think I was 5th choice centre-back, because I'd played for the youth team on the Tuesday, and then I played this game, and I'm playing alongside Alan Hunter. Thank goodness, you know what I mean? And we're playing against Leeds, who were not just the best team in England, they were the dirtiest team. And they had Bremner, Giles, you know, Norman Hunter, you know, and up front was Joe Jordan and Alan Clark. So I started the game, and 10 minutes into the game, Joe Jordan headbutts me. I went, oh, welcome to the big time, you know what I mean? But it was, Alan Clark was a nasty piece of work. He kept elbowing me and he spat in my face, you know, and you don't know how to react. And Big Hunter had to watch his, you do that again, I'm going to break your back. And I never seen him again. And when
He's here tonight, Johnny.
nice. And we ended up winning the game 3-2, and it's incredible when you're getting thrown in at that quarterfinals there.
Yeah, I mean that game, you know, you'd kept records and you'd kept scrapbooks from that era, and there's match reports talking about that particular match, and it was at the end of it said this was probably the most dramatic match in Ipswich Town's history, and you made your debut.
Yeah, I made my debut, and it was probably the best thing I've ever done. And they just pushed me on. But Big Hunter was a major influence
We'll
in
talk
my
about
career.
him in just a moment.
Yes.
So talking at the FA Cup was massive then, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was the big competition, and 3 years later, aged just 20, you cemented your place as an Ipswich Town legend. So you scored a total of 230 goals in your professional career. Where does that one rank in terms of its importance?
I think it's up there with it. It's definitely up top three because it got us to Wembley. You know what I mean? When you win semi-final and you score the goal, it's going to get you there, and you're playing at Wembley at my age. You know what I mean? And so I would say it's got to be up there. Yeah, as one of the top.
An incredible reaction from the supporters.
Yeah, it's
the relief.
Yeah, the relief of we're at Wembley. You know what I mean? And you know what happened after that.
Well, talking of that, we saw George's parents as Mick Mills was climbing the steps there at Wembley.
Yeah.
But you've got a nice little story about when you met up with your parents.
Yeah, and this is my parents, you know, typical Scottish, tight as anything. You know what I mean? And I forgot you. But George's parents are posh. My parents were, you know, Glasgow. But to win at Wembley, you know what I mean, and you come out and go and see your mum and dad after the game and brothers and sisters, and I come out with a medal and I'm 21 and I'm going, nah, and they went, why didn't you score? Because I hit the post twice. They said, why didn't you score? He says, we had a tenner on you at 20-1. I was like, oh my God. And that was, so they didn't speak to me for about 2 or 3 weeks.
So as I said, we were going to talk about Big Al and Kevin Beattie.
Yeah.
So in the book, you describe Big Al as the most influential player you ever played with.
Yeah, because my debut, he done me, you know, and as I say, he looked after me in my debut against Leeds, and just in training. And when he said things, I was just scared of him. I was like, oh, no. But he looked after me, and in my debut, if he wasn't there, I would have sort of, you know, been struggling big time. And for me, he was a big influence.
Yeah. And obviously with Kevin Beattie there, so lots of people, you know, when writing this book, have described you as Ipswich Town's greatest ever player, but what are your thoughts on that?
No. Kevin, for me, Kevin's always been the best player. You know, he had fantastic ability, you know, he's great in the air, the quickest, the strongest. But the only problem with him, he didn't play enough games. He was injury prone and he finished at 26. So for me, I still think he was the best. And I used to go and watch him in training sessions, his heading ability, and, you know, I caught a lot of things, you know, from him. So for me, he's always been Ipswich Town's best footballer.
Well, I suppose it's all about perspective, really, isn't it? So lots of people, Bobby Robson has obviously always said Kevin Beattie was the best ever Ipswich player. But as I said in my introduction, I think when I think of a player who brought the most honour and success to the club, I think it's probably you.
Thanks.
What do you think?
Yeah. You're a man.
So another person that you were in awe of was Bobby Robson.
Yeah.
So tell us about your relationship with the great man.
Well, it just, you know, he was not just, he gave him a debut at 17, you know, you're thinking, it's quite scary when you're getting thrown in the first team at that age. And he was a major influence, but he used to just say to me, when you actually mentioned it, I forgot about it, what was that? Come on.
I asked you what he said to you before big matches to motivate you.
And
what did he say? You remember?
No, go on.
Well, I wasn't there, John.
Yeah, but
John told me, just come up to me and say, you all right, John?
Yeah.
And he'd say, yeah. He said, do your usual.
That's all he said, and I was thinking, that's it, just do your usual, blah, 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 and that's all you had to do, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that really amused me, because I think you hear managers talking such technical terms these days, don't you? And to hear a brilliant manager like Bobby Robson say to a brilliant player, just get out there and do your usual.
But it was a big influence in my career as well, not just my football, because, as I say, I'd lost mum and dad at an early age, you know what I mean? And, you know, they saw the cup final, but after that, you know, they passed away, 53, 58. And as I say, he was there. He was like a father figure, you know what I mean? And he made a major difference to myself.
There's no one above Bobby for you.
No, not at all. He's the best by a country mile.
Yeah. So after the FA Cup final, he built a new team with Russell and Terry coming through, Eric Gase and Alan Brazil coming into the team with Arnold Buren, Franz Tyson. So we heard Steve Ryder there describe the win in Saint-Etienne as one of the finest performances by a British team in Europe. So with that in mind, I imagine producing a performance like that, you must have gone through some highly in-depth and professional preparations.
You know I'm going to tell you something different, aren't you? No, basically we're up there and we had, I think it was the day before the game, and he went, right, you finish your training, and he says, I think you should go, you're allowed to go shopping. Right.
Did you like shopping, John?
So it was the manager's fault for saying we were allowed to go shopping. So as we went in town, we found a little boozer, 6 of the team who were playing the next day. And we didn't go stupid, we had 5 or 6 pints. Right. And then we come back.
Reduced. It's 6 or 7 in the book, I think.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. Does it? 5? It's quite a lot, isn't it? So 5. So we get back to the hotel, and Bobby could tell we'd been drinking, and he goes, "You're fined 2 weeks' wages." And I'm going, "Oh my God, how am I going to pay the mortgage?" You know, panicking, blah blah blah. So we get to the game, and Saint-Etienne, as I say, top team, and when you turn them over 4-1, and after the game, Bobby comes in and goes, "Forget the fine." Right. And then the other, he goes, another 4. What fine? He says, "Well, you 4 were shopping, they 7 were on the piss." And it was like, you would never get that nowadays, would you?
On many levels.
Yes.
Yeah, on many levels. So we also heard Steve Ryder there describe that Ipswich team as the most exciting and attractive team in Britain and one of the great sides of Europe.
Yeah.
How does that feel to hear that?
Well, it was true. You know, the only problem was we didn't have the full squad. You know what I mean, to win. You know, the full treble, which we should have. You know, when you get 16 players and you play 66 games, and as I said, Villa win the league playing 46, and we stuff them 3 times.
So your form that season, though, was unbelievable. 36 goals from a defensive midfield position. And saw you end up receiving that wonderful trophy behind you that some of you can't see, unfortunately.
It just sums up what our team is all about, you know what I mean? And when you get the 6 nominees and the top 3 is 3 Ipswich Town.
Never happened before?
It's never happened before, and we had a great night, didn't we, George? Can you remember?
I wasn't there.
Oh, well, you know. All right.
Not guilty. Yeah. You were recovering then, weren't you, George, I think? Your injury, yeah.
Oh, Butch must have been there.
He was on there.
Well, yeah. It was a good night, wasn't it?
And Russell.
Yeah, and Russell, yeah. Well, the usual were there, weren't they?
So, there's a little story about what happened when you got up the next day, wasn't there?
Yeah, well, basically, because we had a few players from other teams who come up to my room to have a few refreshments, you know, after the event. You know, we were all up there and a few other players turned up and we had a few drinks and it carried on to about 5 in the morning, I think. And I'm rooming with Paul Mariner, my mate, and we got up in the morning, about 9 or whatever, didn't know what day it was. And I said, we better go and sort the bill. And I says, how much you got to sort the bill? He went, a £5. We didn't have the count. I went, I've got a tenner. I think we're struggling. I said, have you got the bill for room 324? 550 quid. So I was like, oh my God. And in walks John Cobbold. And he says, Johnny, have you got a problem? I went, yeah, the bill's fine. He went, leave it with me. And he went, bum, signed for it. He went, it must have been a hell of a night. That was John Cobbold's.
But that recognition wasn't the only recognition you received for that season, because you were also voted the Bravo European Young Player of the Year. So
yes,
that was an award that I didn't know too much about. I knew that you'd won it. So I thought I'd better research it and look into it.
Yeah.
And I discovered that the Bravo Award was awarded by an Italian publication called Guerin Sportivo.
Right.
And to say there's been an impressive list of former winners would be an understatement. So I'm just going to list some of them. They're all in the book. They're on that green panel there that you see. So it was also won by Marco van Basten, Roberto Baggio, Alessandro Del Piero, the Brazilian Ronaldo,
Who are they?
Cristiano Ronaldo, and somebody called Lionel Messi.
Oh no. That tells you something. It must have been odd. I didn't realise all these things till I read it, and to be in the company of them is just something else, isn't it?
It's
You know what I mean?
wasn't it?
You know what I
It
mean?
was absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah. I think there was a few other things as well, weren't there?
But I think you didn't really understand the size of that competition, did you, until you got out there?
Until I went out and
2 weeks, wasn't it?
I was there 2 weeks in Italy, and the chauffeur drove me all about, and he says that you had to play a game, a charity game, to raise money, and there was 10,000, and I had to play this Mickey Mouse game. You know what I mean? As part of the full package, and it was just something you dream about, and you're up there with all these superstars.
So at the time, John didn't drive, so he had the chauffeur, and he was also given an interpreter as well. The chauffeur was Scottish, and the interpreter couldn't understand what those two were saying to him.
It's a bit like me and you, isn't it?
Yeah, very similar. Had to play those tapes back about.
Yeah, I know, exactly. True.
Yeah. Right. Well, that wasn't it. The Ballon d'Or.
Oh my.
So he didn't win it, but he did get in the top 10,
Yeah.
which is pretty impressive again.
Yeah.
And that was another surprise to you, wasn't it? You didn't know about that.
I didn't know about it, but to be in that company, that's something. You must have been half decent. So.
Well, I don't think any of us should be surprised about it, because you scored 14 goals in the UEFA Cup and equalled Altafini's record for the most goals in a European season. And that was a record that stayed for a long while, wasn't it? So I think you'd expect to be in it, wouldn't you, really, now?
Yeah, when you think about it, but at the time I just thought I was doing all right, you know what I mean? But to mingle with these sort of people.
You did all right, John.
I done all right, didn't I?
You did all right.
Done.
Yeah, I think we'd all agree you did.
Yeah.
But there's only been 50 British or Irish players that have been included in the top 10. Only 50.
Oh, is that?
Yeah, in the whole time with competition. Yeah.
How many Scottish?
8.
Oh, well.
I thought you were going to catch me out though, didn't you?
I'll try to catch you out.
You have to get up earlier than that. What? So, whilst you were listed 9th in the Ballon d'Or, which at the time was known as the European Player of the Year award,
This is
the
brilliant.
top Spanish magazine, Don Ballon,
Yeah.
they said that you were the 3rd best player on the entire planet. So,
They weren't wrong with it.
no.
No, but who at first was Zico was number
Zico
one,
was first,
and then it was
Rummenigge.
I was third, and then I beat Big Butch's best friend, Maradona. And this was when Scotland played them in a friendly.
You never caught.
I got him later on, yeah.
You also, George played in that game as well, didn't you?
Yeah, but
Who played in
no, but I cleaned.
Never caught.
I've got another picture in my other book where I've cleaned them out.
So was he the best player though that you ever played?
Yeah, he was unplayable. No, I don't want to say that because Butch is here, but he was unplayable. He was different level.
Well, you were in that company, didn't you?
Well,
There you go.
only for that, yeah.
It doesn't lie. Right.
Oh, here we go.
So, Escape to Victory, a famous part of your story. And one of the main stars there that we can see in the background there was Sylvester Stallone,
Right.
who enjoys the nickname of the Italian Stallion. But that's not what you call him, is it?
I call him personally a knobhead. Serious. Because, sorry about that, but he was. When you meet, you're in with Sylvester Stallone, there's Pelé, there's Michael Caine, and all these players, and he came in and he goes, he's the goalkeeper, and he went to the main producer and he says, "Can I score the winning goal?" And we went, "You're the goalkeeper, you knobhead." You know what I mean? And he never mingled. He stayed in a different hotel. He didn't mingle with the likes of all us, you know. And we had a ball. We were there for like 5 weeks.
Mr. Beattie sorted him out.
Kevin?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a but I just ignored him. I just thought he was a dickhead, you know what I mean? And he's not one of my favourites, you know what I mean? As you probably could tell.
I mean, I did approach him for an interview for the book, but
Did you?
he wasn't keen, John.
No, but
No.
Then he,
I think he's a Norwich fan, maybe. Yeah.
that's even worse.
Yeah, we'll get.
I might have to phone a friend.
But it was a different story with Michael Caine and Pele.
Yeah, they were all friendly, typical. You know, you're there for 5 weeks and you're hanging about with Michael Caine and Pele and Ozzy Ardiles and all famous other footballers, and it was the best. Russell will tell you, you know, we had a ball. You know what I mean?
I think Matt Holland thinks you're making it up.
No,
That's true, Matt.
we're hanging about with them, but as I say, I just kept away from dickheads. You know what I mean?
So, Bobby Robson negotiated your fee.
Oh yeah,
didn't he? But you decided that wasn't quite good enough.
It was it. Yeah,
You took matters into your own hands, didn't you, John?
Yeah, I did, yeah. I went, you know, Bobby agreed our fee when we first said you want to go in this movie, and they agreed the fee, and it was decent at the time, so we went along with it. But once we got out there, you know, we were talking to a lot of the players, the other ex-players, and they says they got royalties, you know what I mean? I thought, I'm going to ask to try and get some royalties for the boys, for Ipswich. So I went to the main top man. I says, I think we should get more money or royalties, or we seriously think they're leaving. And his exact words were, off. So I had to go back and tell the lads we're staying, blah, blah, blah. I know, yeah. So we ended up staying there. But it was great. Russell will tell you, we had great 5 weeks, you know, mingling with all these.
And then you went to the premiere, didn't you? And you were in for a surprise. When you watched the film at the cinema for the first time. Because you...
Give us a clue. Hold on.
It was a problem with your accent, John.
Sorry. Oh, you're talking about, yeah. So I went to the premiere, and suddenly it comes up, and I go, you know, I had 2 lines in the movie, and it was the 2 lines were, I'll take the top bunk, right? And the other one was, it's better than playing for Manchester. That's quite good, isn't it? I like that, being a Liverpool player, you know, because I hate Man U, right? So basically, that was my 2 lines, and I thought, when I come up watching the premiere, and it's me, I'm on, and I go, that's not my voice. So basically, it was a posh Edinburgh accent, right? So I had 2 lines in the movie, and I was dubbed. So that's my claim to fame.
And nobody took the mickey about it.
I've never lived it down, ever.
So another one of John's many claims to fame. So the World Cup in 1982, you played for Scotland. So before that, just leading up to that tournament, the previous 2 seasons, you scored 59 goals in 119 matches. So that's 1 in 2. 1 in 2 from a defensive midfield position. So you headed into the tournament in great form.
Yeah.
And with England playing the day after Scotland, yourself and Alan Brazil became the first Ipswich players to play in the World Cup finals.
Oh.
And then you became the first player to score in them as well.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's not bad, is it? No, but these games, I've played for my country in Spain, and we beat New Zealand 5-2, and I scored 2 goals, and I ended up top goal scorer with 2 goals. I know it's not a lot. And then the next game was Russia, and it was 2-2. They were top 5 in the world. But the best game was Brazil. They had, you know, Zico, Socrates, Zidane, Falcao. And the worst thing happened, we playing them, and David Nery scored. So we scored first, we got them annoyed. And then the second half, they scored 4 goals, they beat us 4-1, you know what I mean? And as I say, we get knocked out. But it was funny, after the game, you swap shirts with the best player. So the best player for them was number 10, Zico, who was like the next Pele, number 10. So the funny thing was, Kenny Dalglish after the game. He goes over to Zico to get his shirt, and Zico, custard pie, see you later, no chance. And Alan Hansen, he jogs over to Zico, and that was the nearest he got to him that day. So Zico goes nuts. Suddenly Zico walks towards me, and as he walks towards me, I turn around thinking there's somebody behind me. I'm going, what's this? And he went, swap. I said, you can have what you want. And the reason was I was number 10 for Scotland, and he wanted the number 10 shirt. So after I go into the dressing room giving a nah. And the manager goes, because we lost 4-1, the manager slaughters me because I'm giving it all this. No, we lost 4-1. But then I give the shirt away in Ipswich when I get home for a charity, and they made loads of money.
That's brilliant. Okay, right. So, unfortunately, you did leave Ipswich, and when it was time for you to go,
But I came back
twice.
twice.
You left Portman Road in March 1984, and you joined a Liverpool team that was on the verge of winning their third consecutive league championship and another European Cup. So it must have been a big compliment when they wanted you to go there.
Yeah, it's the reason I did leave, because Bobby had left, and I couldn't see seeing Ipswich being a force, and a lot of the other players did leave as well, and I was lucky to go to. I wanted to win things, and I went to the best team in the league, and that's the reason I went there, to win things.
And in the 1984-85 season, you scored 27 goals for them, including hat-tricks in the league, the FA Cup and the European Cup.
Oh, yeah.
And you told me a story about how it took 38 years to equal that, didn't it?
Well, basically, I think it was not long ago. And
I think it was 2 years ago.
2 years ago, and they were talking about who scored 3 hat-tricks in the one season, and it came up with Haaland, centre forward. He scored 3 in the FA Cup, 3 in the Europe,
Champions
and
League.
3 in the league. And they were going in the match of the day with Lineker. Lineker was on with Shearer and Michael Richards, and they were going, who was the last person to score these 3 hat-tricks? And they said it's somebody from Liverpool. And so Shearer went, Ian Rush, wrong. The next one was Michael Richards, and he went, Kenny Dalglish, no. So they come at the last one, and he goes, it was me. I was the only one that scored 3 hat-tricks. Yeah. So that was the last
38-year record.
Yeah, 38-year record.
So,
it's not bad, is it?
Talking of hat-tricks, so when we were doing the book, I spoke to Jason Dezelle, and he said that he scored 2 goals on quite a number of occasions, but he never scored a hat-trick. He said, how many did Warky score then? And I said, well, he scored 6, and he scored 4 goals in a game twice. I mean, it's just mind-blowing statistics, aren't they? They really are. So you had your time at Liverpool, and you scored 42 goals and 108 appearances. Again, great statistics. How do you feel overall about your time at Liverpool?
At Liverpool?
Yeah.
I could have done better. There were seasons where I was, unbelievable as such, but then I had injuries and all that. But the season where I beat Ian Rush was always top goal scorer when he scores one season 26, and I'm the only one that's ever beat him. I got 27. Oh man. So see, things like that, Peter, you don't forget that, do you?
No.
And I still remind Rushy when I see him.
And you saw him recently because he gave you another medal, didn't he?
Yeah, he gave me. I was up there, for the Southampton game, and when you get medals in the old days, you played so many games, and I was injured and I played 13. You had to play 14, and there was another season where I played, 10 or 12, and because of injuries and whatever. And now I was invited to get a medal, and I got 2 league medals at Liverpool last week. So now I've got, apart from the one I won, so I've got a medal 83, 84, 85, 86 and 87, 88. So I've got 3 league medals with Liverpool. But you don't need to applaud that. I would have loved to have got league medal with Ipswich. And we should have got a league medal with Ipswich.
Well, you did come back home, as you said.
Yeah.
And when you arrived, John Duncan was the manager. And there's a great team shot there with some familiar faces. We've got Simon Milton and Chris Kawomia, Jason Dezelle. There's Romeo and Mickey Stockwell, Dalian Atkinson. And sitting right there in the middle was Sergei Boltacher.
Yeah.
So that was a name from the past. And he was somebody that you felt we should have made much better use of.
Yeah, because when I played against him in, the World Cup for Russia, and he was a centre-back. And we play him right side midfield, I think. I'm sure it was something like that, and he didn't do it, you know what I mean? So, but he's a nice guy, but you don't do that with proper internationals, do you?
Yeah.
But that's just the way it was.
Yeah. So you came back at that time, and the players around you, they sort of worshipped you, really, didn't they? They loved you, and they let you, do your little training routine.
Yeah, I think everybody knew that I didn't like the training, and I just wanted
finishing practice.
Yeah, I liked finishing and and
destroying goalkeepers.
Yeah, I do that for a living. Yeah.
So the first time you met John Lyle, basically you couldn't agree terms, could you? So you went off to Middlesbrough for a year. You had your year at Middlesbrough.
Yeah.
And then with Tony Mowbray, actually.
Yeah.
And
Tony.
That finished. And
Tony, don't say nothing.
And at the end of that period, you genuinely thought your career was over, didn't you?
Yeah, big time. Yeah, I thought that was it. And then I come back to it.
But before you came back, there's a story, isn't there, that you went to the unemployment office?
Yeah. I couldn't believe it. I went to the unemployment office to sign on. And they went off. I didn't do it.
That was at the top of Portman Road.
At the top of Portman Road, I thought nobody will see me, and I'm sneaking in just to sign on. This is serious. And in the end,
you came and knocked on the door?
Well, I went like that, and then I just done a U-turn. But if somebody had seen me try to sign on it, that would have made the papers, wouldn't it?
Probably.
Yeah.
So
that just shows you, innit?
So John Lyle agreed to let you train, didn't he? And you got yourself fit, and situation changed, and all of a sudden you found yourself back in the first team.
Yeah.
And you stayed there.
Yeah.
And you played every game to the end of the season. You were voted the Supporters Player of the Year for the third time.
Yeah.
And we won promotion to the Premier League. Amazing.
That's what the supporters don't. They know, don't they? And as I say, you know what I mean? They know, but they do. You know what I mean? But I went there just to train and all that and keep myself fit, blah blah blah, and I thought I can get in this team now. I can do the business, and I ended up playing a few years, and all the lads will tell you I didn't train all the time. I just turned up.
But you played in that central defensive position.
Yeah.
And watching as a supporter, you seemed to be 3 steps ahead of everybody else on the pitch. You knew where. Was it that easy as you made it look?
Yeah, all easy. No, I did it as a youngster, but when I went there, you're playing against less players who are, not the best as such, or they've not got a football brain. You need to have a football brain when you play football, and I was reading them before it happened.
You were.
So. And I enjoyed it, and I played as soon as I was in there, I could play the games, but I was allowed to not train and just do what you want. And I thought, this is quite good.
It was certainly quite good. So some really well-known faces on there, Vinnie Jones, Gordon Strachan, Peter Beardsley, and also the dad of one of our current players as well.
Oh, Hurst?
Yeah.
He was a nice
dad, David there.
I've met him since there and had a word with him, and he was a nice guy. Yeah.
And George probably wasn't even born when that happened, was he?
Probably wasn't.
No, I don't think he was. I don't think he was. Right, John. So I think it's really important that we talk about the man who was your best mate, Paul Mariner. With the exception of a certain city in Norfolk, you're really a universally popular man in football, and with the exception of Stallone as well, perhaps. But Paul was your best friend.
Yeah, he was. He was, a lot of the boys will tell you, he was a character, great player, and when he came from Plymouth, and we just hit it off, the two of us, he's loud as anything, and you needed him in the dressing room. But most of all, he was a great player. You know, he was proper centre forward who could hold it up and knock people about. And I used to, at corners and all that for us, I just said to Maras, you go the near post, use your weight, flick it on and I'll score. So I got all the credit, you know what I mean? But he did that all the time, and we missed him. I mean, he's a top man.
Yeah, and
I don't like talking about him.
it's just emotional for you, isn't it?
But he was a great lad. All the lads will tell you he was a major character.
And he made everybody else better.
You wouldn't mess with him. Oh, I wouldn't mess with him. But he's a good lad.
So apparently, we have a big match coming up on Sunday. And with 25 appearances and 9 goals, you also hold the record for playing in the most East Anglian derbies and scoring the most goals in them as well. So, I think that makes you officially the King of Anglia.
Yeah.
So, give us some of your memories of playing in those games. I know you've got some great...
Well, one of the best ones is a hat-trick. You know, the hat-trick were 4-2 and, you know, you get a hat-trick and 2 penalties, you know. So I went out that night and didn't have to buy a drink for a long time. I know that's normal. George will probably think it's normal, you know what I mean? But...
So, before you go any further...
go on.
So that was your first hat-trick for Ipswich.
Right.
And you got the Man of the Match award for that game. Can you remember what your prize was?
Somebody showed me that, but I can't remember. What?
It was a Black & Decker work, mate.
Oh, get off.
Donated by Texas Home Care.
Hold on.
He's putting his glasses on, by the way. So, was that ever used?
I didn't even pick it up. I just had the picture and then done one. I don't know how to do these things. I don't even know how to do a knife and fork. No, so I didn't bring it home.
So back to the derbies then.
Yeah.
A couple of your other favourite stories.
Yes.
There was a match under, I think George was the manager actually.
Oh, was it?
When we had the game where we were 2-0 down.
Yeah.
We had one penalty, you scored it,
Yeah.
got given another penalty, and it got rescinded, didn't it?
Yeah.
So, can you remember the little chat you had with Brian Gunn?
It's funny because, you know, what, as I say, it was a penalty. Didn't know if it was going to be a penalty or what. So everybody goes over to the linesman, and they're all talking with him and the referee, and I'm standing with Gunny on the penalty spot because I already scored the penalty, and he's standing with me, and he goes, "Where are you putting this one?" You know, meaning neither left or right. And I went, same as the last one, in the net. Right. But it was cancelled, you know what I mean? But it's quite funny. Everybody, the whole lot of them are all there giving it all this, and me and him are just having a bit of... And I got on well with Gunny, you know, he's a good lad, but...
Well, Brian Gunn incident happened in your last ever derby,
Yeah.
so you ended on a win.
Yeah.
So you got him to thank for that.
Yeah, I got... Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we also, as I did with George's book, I spoke to Jill. I also spoke to John's wife, Karen. And she lifted the lid on what it's like to live with such a recognisable character. But it's a great read, and it really comes across that the two of you have a really happy life. And I think it sounds like one of your biggest success stories has been bringing your families together.
Yes. As I say, we're both different families, you know, as I say, and Karen's family's, you know, fantastic, and so is mine's, and we get together and it's you can't beat it, you know what I mean? They all get on together, and that's the main thing, you know what I mean? So it's always difficult when you got 2 sets of children, but
There's a lovely picture there.
yeah, the picture, this is
Shows the full clan, doesn't it?
yeah, it
Together.
shows them, and we get together quite a lot, and they got on like a house on fire, and as I say, and hopefully it will continue.
Okay, right, we're nearly done, John. So, all of those games, all of those goals, 19 different seasons you played for Ipswich. It's an incredible association with this club. How do you try and summarise it?
Sum it all up. you know, I'm a Glasgow boy, right? And I've came to Suffolk, and this is where I live now, and I always will live. And it's my team, and they've always been the best team I've ever played for, and ever will do.
Awesome.
So I think it's only right that the final word on John's incredible career should come from the man who he looked up to the most, Sir Bobby Robson, who once said, "John Wark ranks as one of my best ever signings. He was prolific, an instinctive player who was equally as good in the air as he was on the ground. He was a goal machine for us, and it was uncanny how he did it week in, week out. His mileage was incredible. I certainly wouldn't have wanted to mark him. Walkie always had bags of confidence, never seemed to get rattled, and he combined skill with aggression. He was quite an extraordinary player." Ladies and gentlemen, please show your appreciation for arguably our greatest ever player. He's here, he's there, it's Johnny Wark. I think we'll just have a little story about John Wark from Simon Milton. And this story absolutely sums up the impact of John Wark. Simon.
Well, follow that. I agree with David. What a fantastic event this is here tonight. To put this event on at the club. Thank you, Neil. Thank you, Reverend Eddie Victory, with this. And eventually a few people thought, before I tell my John Wark story, I want to tell my Mike Noy story.
Oh.
Because, you know, if I sorry, but if I look, you know, when I played, David Sheepshanks was our chairman, George Birdie was our manager, John Wark was a teammate. And then when I retired, I started to work with Mike Noy. And I hold Mike Noy in the same esteem that I hold David and George and John, because he was fantastic before. And delicate, he's a mad boy. So, my Johnny Wark story. Do you remember Danny Sonner? Right, so we're talking about absolute icons. Now, Danny Sonner wasn't an absolute icon, but my God, he made an impression in our dressing room. So Danny Sonner was one of the funniest players that we ever signed. He wasn't here for a long time. He didn't play loads of games. Firstly, my first story is Adam Tanner went round to Danny Sonner's house to have a beer before we went out. And there was no light on in the kitchen because it didn't work. And so Adam said, well, we'll take the light bulb out of the lounge and we'll put it in the kitchen so we can get ourselves a beer and sit in here. And Danny Sonner, at 26 years old, said, can you do that? So that gives you an idea. But my story that involves John, this was Christmas time. We're going on the Christmas do. So we got a bus from Ipswich. We're going down to London. And Danny Sonner knows that he happens to have the same shirt as John Wark. Exactly the same shirt. So he decides to put on the same shirt as Johnny Wark as we're going down to London for our Christmas do. So we all turn up to get on the bus, and he kept saying to Warkie, come on, Dad, come with me. Come on, Dad. So you can imagine, Danny thinks it's great. We all think it's great. Warkie is fuming. Absolutely fuming. So anyway, we go into London, we go everywhere, absolutely everywhere, and we end up as Stringfellows. So in case you're not sure about Stringfellows, it's a pool club in the middle of the West End, right? So we're now queuing to get into Stringfellows, okay? And it's a massive queue. Long time ago. I apologise for anyone who's well, John's missus, to be fair. So whilst we're in the queue and waiting, Peter Stringfellow comes out of the club and walks around. He's looking around and he goes, it's Johnny Wark. This is how famous John Wark is. He goes, Johnny Wark! And he goes, are you coming in? He went, yeah, we've got all the lads together, we're all coming in. And he goes, okay, who's with you? And John gets everybody in from the front of the queue, and he's going, him. And he points to Danny Sonner, and he went, not him. He got his own back. Johnny, absolute legend. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon.